host.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay in starting the webinar there. We just had a few technical difficulties. You probably spotted the main technical difficulty. We're just getting a little bit of trouble getting Pablo Sanchez from Los Heroldos joining us for the session. But we're working on it in the background and we'll have him join us very shortly. I'll make a few introductions before Pablo joins. Firstly, Amanda, who's going to be hosting the session today. Thanks very much, Amanda, for doing this for us. And if you haven't got a copy, then do look out for Amanda's book, The South American Wine Guide. Absolutely fantastic. Everything you could possibly want to know about South American wines is in here. Aha! And that always happens, doesn't it? So we have our other winemaker. He's here. And then the two winemakers joining us today. We have Mr. Karim Mussi from Bodega Alandes and Altocedro down in the corner there. And Karim, I'm sure for a lot of you needs no introduction. Fantastic wines, really superb. Been working with Condor wines for a number of years now, and we don't have any trouble finding fans for those wines. They're delicious. You'll see if you haven't had them, you'll have a chance to try today. And then not Mr. Karim Mussi, but Mr. Pablo Sanchez has joined us now as well. Pablo is winemaker at Los Heroldos and Falasco wines in Mendoza. And today's session, of course, we're focusing on not Malbec, we all know about that. That's a fantastic grape that, of course, Nino's introduction. We're going to look at some alternative grapes from Argentina. And without further ado, Amanda, I'll hand over to you and I'll put myself on mute and cut my video so that you can continue from here.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. The three of us are actually streaming in from Mendoza on a rather kind of chilly winter's day. But it's a real pleasure to have some beautiful wines to taste. To warm us up and hopefully cool you down in the middle of your lovely summer there. So obviously the topic is beyond Malbec. As we all know, Malbec is the champion variety of Argentina. It accounts for more than 20% of the kind of grape varieties and production, but we have a huge diversity here in Argentina to explore. So I'm really excited that we've got some of my favorite grapes to taste through. And we're starting with two beautiful white wines. So interestingly, Argentina does have a history of actually producing more white wines in the 70s than red wines, but we are a red wine country today. But I think in the recent years, we're really seeing a beautiful renaissance of high quality white wines. And we've got two great examples to kick off. So we're going to start with Chardonnay, which is the number 5 in the Argentine grapes. It's not actually, it's number 9, forgive me. So just sliding into the top 10 with about 5,000 hectares. And I think what really has been quite exciting about Chardonnay in recent years is this push towards cooler climates. We see some excellent examples from the Uco Valley, like we're going to start tasting, and also further south from Patagonia and even towards the coast. So we're going to start obviously with this beautiful Hermandad. Have I said that correctly? And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about why you went, because this comes from El Peral, doesn't it? Which is it's a really interesting sub-region in the Uco Valley for white wines. Can you introduce El Peral and a bit about the kind of terroir and the climate there and why it's so suitable for Chardonnay?
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. El Peral is a beautiful country that belongs to Pungato in Uco Valley. Is in general divided in two parts: the lower part, or the oldest part of El Peral, and the highest part of the El Peral, where we have the vineyard that produced this wine. In general, the lower part of El Peral is with deeper soils, with more organic components in the composition. But when you go up, we have to think this vineyard is located at 1,300 meters elevated, and we have a diversity of different soils, different soil compositions, with round rocks in surface. Is mainly alluvial, but that vineyard have some slopes in different places. It's a vineyard that have also Malbec planted, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, and this amazing chard. But the place where the Chardonnay is planted, we have in general sandy loamy soil in surface with some round rocks, some I can't remember, pebbles, you say, and in the bottom almost 1.5 meter, we have some calcareous stones. And this is 2 different clones, French clones, 95, 96 clones planted there. And the production is very low. The place is amazing. It's pretty close to Gualtallarí, another famous region in Uco Valley, but is separated of Gualtallarí by some hills that the name of the hills are Lomas del Jaboncillo. And it's a beautiful place to visit and to see. This wine is made with a very artisanal way. The production is very low, only 20,000 bottles a year. We pick up the grapes manually, and after that we press the clusters and we clean the juice statically, and we ferment the juice with selected yeast in French oak barrels like toast. And we keep the wine there approximately 10-12 months before the bottling in order to preserve all the freshness of this wine. You can see the character of the wine is very citrus, with some hints of white fruits like pears, and the touch of the wood is there. The vanilla flavors come later.
Excellent. Yeah, I think this is a really nice representation of how, you know, Chardonnay in Argentina has evolved, and the kind of oak use is really quite sensitive. I'm actually trying the next vintage, 2020, which is really beautiful as well, and it's really exciting to see how this kind of pattern of change in the Chardonnays. What is it about your winemaking? Talk us a bit about the transition. So you've moved to quite light toast now. Are there any kind of big differences that have happened in the last 5 years or so?
Exactly. We are looking for more respect by the fruity expression, but always with the touch of the wood there, because it's a great value for the wine. And 2019, it was chosen by Decanter as one of the best 20 shards in South America. And even another critics like Patricio Tapia choose like a revelation from El Peral to Pungato, and 95, 93 points, always very good scores. But I like to produce this style of shards with freshness and with a touch, very elegant of the oak flavors. That is the main concept.
Yeah, and I think it's superb value as well for, you know, £25. I think you're getting a really kind of complex Chardonnay with great kind of freshness and persistence as well. And El Peral, as you said, is such a special place. When you drive through, you're surrounded by these kind of smaller hills. It really does feel like one of the kind of lost and rediscovered corners of the Uco Valley. It's a very special place. So a real treat to start there. We would like people to participate. So if anyone has any questions, please just pop them in the question and answer box. We're going to be monitoring it, so don't be shy. You've got 2 wonderful winemakers here to grill and give you all the inside information about Argentina's wine scene. So please do send your comments about the wines that we're tasting, and also questions. And we will move on now to our second white wine. And I have to be honest, I think this is one of my favorite white wines in Argentina. I think this has become, you know, its own kind of classic in its own way. And it blends 2 varieties, which I think kind of marries a bit of the old and the new of Argentina, which is Semillon, which is a great historical variety for the country, and Sauvignon Blanc, which really we've kind of seen come into its own in recent years. So Karim, can you talk us a bit through your Alandes blend? And tell us why you decided to kind of go with Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, obviously a great Bordeaux combination, but what is it that makes it an Argentinian blend too?
Well, thank you for the introduction. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, yes, right. There is the bottle. Well, here we have a very special situation because in Argentina, you know, all these meetings are about Argentine diversity. And as you know, we are plenty of Semillon here in Argentina, especially in the Uco Valley. So we had to take advantage of those old vine patrimony vineyards that we always had, but Semillon itself was very hard to sell or to communicate as a white wine from Argentina. So we embrace this classic Bordeaux blend, this classic profile that both varietals, Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc, are completely different when they are separate, but when they come together, they bond as a single thing with a beautiful, unique profile that it's part of our DNA here in Argentina, and it's a global DNA. It's on everybody's DNA because this classic Bordeaux style, it's something that we have been tasting and enjoying for centuries. So it brings the best of each varietal, the classic, dense, elegant Semillon with a fresh, nice citrus profile of the Sauvignon Blanc. So both things combined are really interesting. And I think we did something classic. We like to make jokes about this wine when we launched it, because we said that it was like a classic dress gentleman, English gentleman, with a blue jacket, a white shirt, gray pants, and brown shoes, and went to a hipster party in London, and everybody was amazed and surprised about how well dressed was that gentleman. And it's a blue jacket, white shirt, brown shoes wine that, with this classic profile, it really brings something from Argentina that most of the people don't expect.
And I always find this wine, I think it's got great elegance and this really kind of lovely lifted kind of floral lavender character, which comes through for me. Where did you select these parcels? You know, where is the Semillon coming from? Where is the Sauvignon Blanc coming from, and why?
The Semillon come from the southern part of Uco Valley, close to La Consulta, in a sub-appellation called Pareditas. That is the very south part of San Carlos. Here you have the Uco Valley, that is this long strip at the southwest Mendoza city, and the Uco Valley is formed by 3 counties. Well, the last county here, San Carlos, it's on the south, on the southern formation below El Cepillo. So while here you have the alluvial cone from La Consulta, the Semillon comes from here, from the very south. And the Sauvignon Blanc comes from Los Chacates, our newer vine, but beautiful, a beautiful clone. So just to give you a brief idea on the map, while the Semillon comes from the very south, the Sauvignon Blanc comes from the very west part of the Uco Valley.
Excellent, fantastic. We have a little flood of questions here for you, Karim. So first of all, you know, this is a non-vintage. Why is it non-vintage? And why do you think not many people actually make non-vintage still wines? Obviously, we get lots of non-vintage sparkling, but why do we, you know, stick to vintage when it comes to still usually?
Well, the main reason is because it's 100% barrel fermented and aged for a year. For this classic profile, I thought that the wine was asking or will need more than a year in barrel. The problem when you make white wines, you can only use the barrel for white wines and not for reds. So we need to empty and clean the barrels for the next vintage. So we have to have the empty barrels ready for the fruit that is coming. And we cannot receive the whole new vintage in new barrels because it's going to affect the profile. So to give more elegance, or to increase that elegance perception, we blend the whole batch from a single vintage with previous vintages, like a Solera system. So this 6th edition, it is all the 2022 juice that we blended in February this year with all the previous vintages. After we have this batch together, we rack down to the barrels 20% of that new blend, and we bottle the rest. So here we have the same content that we have at the barrels. Next year, February 2024, we are going to blend all the 2023 vintage with the previous years that we have on barrels. We will make another new big blend. We are going to keep 20%, and we are going to bottle the 7th edition of this wine. That's why it's a non-vintage, it's a multi-vintage, multi-appellation, and multi-varietal. So you have
Excellent.
22 and previous vintages all combined as a single batch.
Excellent. And a follow-on question that I think you might have already answered. Has your winemaking changed, or are the vintage differences? And can you also tell us the percentage approximately of Semillon and the percentage of Sauvignon Blanc?
Well,
Karim?
I will answer the last question. Normally it's 2/3 Semillon, 1/3 Sauvignon Blanc, and the reason why we did that is because I think that the wine asked for a longer barrel aging, and as you can perceive, even this process, it kept the beautiful acidity and freshness of both varietals. Regarding your first question, that it's not the percentage. The other question was, sorry.
The vintage. So there's a comment that it tastes.
The first question.
There's a comment that it tastes quite different to some previous vintages. Why is that just vintage variation, or Claire says that it's a little bit more herbaceous than she previously remembered?
Well, as you know, in Argentina, or at least in this side of the country, where we enjoy the continental weather, so we don't have many vintage variation from one year to another. So maybe for me to have a non-vintage, it's something very unique, but also very enjoyable as a winemaker, because you always have an average of the last vintage plus the previous ones. So maybe the character or the expression or the differences that you are perceiving right now are part of this new blend that always come from the majority of the juice that is from the last vintage, the 2022 here, that could change the profile from the previous ones.
Perfect. Thank you. I think two delicious wines to start with. Lovely to see the kind of, vision of the Chardonnay focused on one vintage, one place, one grape, and then this beautiful complex blend of Alandes as well. So we're going to move on to our red wines now. Please do keep the questions coming. And we're going to start with Bonarda. So Los Heraldos Estate, Bonarda. And Bonarda, I think, is one of those kind of secret champions of Argentine wine. It's actually the third most planted grape variety, but doesn't get nearly as enough exposure as I think it deserves. So Pablo, please talk to us about Bonarda. What is Bonarda like in the vineyard? What is it like in winemaking? And how did it come to be so big? Because this is, what we consider one of the Italian grape varieties, even though it's not. It's from the Savoie. But why is Argentine Bonarda? Why is it such a popular grape variety here?
Well, Bonarda is the second largest red variety planted in Argentina after the Malbec, but it's interesting because in the 70s was the first one because it has a very high yield per hectare. And where the winery is located, Los Haroldos, is a county called San Martin in the eastern valleys of Mendoza. And San Martin is the national capital of Bonarda in Argentina because it's the place where we have more hectare planted. But this Bonarda, it was confused with the Italian Bonarda. Nothing have to do. Some researchers discovered a few years ago that our Bonarda comes from the Charbonneau or the Corvo Noir from Europe. And nowadays it's called Bonarda Argentina. And it is a very interesting wine, but as the Malbec has different expression, depends on the region. In the grape came to Argentina in the 19th century, approximately, and one of the places where have been more planted, it was Luján de Cuyo. But nowadays, the mainly surface is planted in the east region, but we have also Bonarda in Uco Valley. In fact, this Los Haroldos state Bonarda, the grapes come from two different places, Uco Valley and Medrano. Medrano is a small county located in Junín, pretty close to the winery. And we have two beautiful expression in that different places. From Medrano, we get more the richness of the Bonarda, the black fruit flavors, lower acidity, black cherries, that kind of things. And when we go to the Uco Valley, to upper vineyards with colder temperatures, we have more the freshness, the acidity, the strawberries, some character of olive, sometimes a touch of eucalyptus, some herbal notes is in there. And it is made also in a simple way. It's fermented in a steel tank, the grapes, and after that aged 6 months in 50% American oak. American oak works always perfectly, and 50% French oak. And we are very happy with this. Los Haroldos Bonardas is very well recognized here in Argentina by the quality, and we export a lot. And well, England, United Kingdom is one of our best markets outside Argentina. It seems they love it.
It's got great drinkability. I think that's what Bonarda, for me, is a wine that's just so easy to drink. And it's always one that I introduce friends to when they come to visit, because, here in Mendoza in Argentina, we've got lots of beautiful Bonarda to drink. And actually, it's one of those varieties that people don't get to drink too often outside, and it's just so pleasurable. It's juicy, it's got lovely fruit, it's very kind of soft on the tannins, although this has a nice kind of fine structure to it. What are the kind of properties of Bonarda? How would you describe it as a grape variety if you're selling it to someone who's walking into the shop for the first time? How do you sell Bonarda?
Well, it seems like a cousin of the Malbec, it's a gentle palate with velvety tannins, red fruit flavors, easy to drink. Remember, here in Argentina in the 80s, they used Bonarda to blend it, to create some red wines with Malbec. Always when you blend it with Malbec, the marriage is perfect because they complement together. And it's a very rich variety. I like it a lot, the Bonarda, even to meat, everything, but it's very interesting. Always is a gentle palate. We are producing a higher quality range in Falasco wines for Bonarda. It will be released. Exactly. You have it.
I have it.
You have it.
I have a sneak preview.
Exactly, but that is a single vineyard from our vineyard located in San Martin, in Monte Caseros. Well, this is the funny thing, another red variety who adapted perfectly to different conditions in different areas, warm areas, cold areas with different expression, and that's funny. And you can get wonderful Bonarda from different winemakers here in Argentina.
Excellent. And it really is, the fact that you just mentioned about the renaming of the variety, which was in 2011, I believe, when the INV, which is the technical committee and board here, renamed it Bonarda Argentina, because it isn't the same grape variety as Bonarda in Italy. It's actually Douce Noir, which is very kind of difficult to find beyond Argentina. So this really is an Argentine grape variety in many ways, I believe, and really has found its home here, and especially in the East, as you mentioned. And I think this is great value. For £14, you really can't go wrong picking this up for a nice kind of weekend barbecue with friends. So perfect. We're gonna move on now to Tempranillo, unless anyone has any kind of questions that they'd like to shoot on the Q&A. And Tempranillo also has quite an interesting story here in Argentina. And you know, if we've gone from what we consider one of the kind of Italian varieties, Tempranillo is obviously linking us to the very Spanish immigration story that we have in Argentina as well. So Karim, would you like to talk to us about the history of Tempranillo? I consider you Mr. Tempranillo, Señor Tempranillo. Tell us why, you know, why this great variety has thrived in certain parts of Argentina.
Well, thank you for the compliment, but I'm not Mr. Tempranillo. I think I would love to be Mr. La Consulta, but La Consulta is Tempranillo. La Consulta is one of the crowns of Tempranillo in Argentina, at least in terms of quality, because most of the Tempranillos here are also on the east area, like Pablo recently explained, mostly for table wines. But the Tempranillo has two locations in Uco Valley, one on the very north, close to El Peral, where it's very popular, and one in the south in El Cepillo, and that southern area from La Consulta, that it's widely planted thanks to the Spanish immigrants that spread the Tempranillo as a solution to reduce the risk of frost. When I started working at Altocedro in 1999 and trying to build a solid strategy about the terroir-driven winery like Altocedro, I found a research from the National Agricultural Institute that talk about the traditional cepage from all around Argentina. Those varietals that adapted better or in certain areas and express differently, the wines express differently. So it talks about I don't know, Torrontés in Cafayate, Chenin Blanc in San Rafael, Semillon Blanc and Merlot in Rio Negro, Cabernet Sauvignon here in Maipú, in the Maipú area. But La Consulta was the only appellation with three varietals connected. Semillon in white, Tempranillo and Malbec in red. So we took advantage of that Tempranillo, knowing that to be a born and raised winery from La Consulta, we must have Tempranillo on our portfolio. We have a lot of old vine Tempranillos on our blend, but this one was the very first 100% varietal Tempranillo from Altocedro that it really helped us to explain how Tempranillos express from that area. Are mostly planted in the Parral pergola system because everything is designed to avoid the risk of frost. While the Malbecs, as I show you here on the map, are mostly planted here. Sorry, here on the north. Here on the south on El Cepillo, you have this area is facing the southeast, so the risk of frost here is much bigger. So the Spanish immigrants pick us a shortened ripeness period. The season starts here, so you can avoid a late frost from September, October, like the one that we have this year, this season, sorry. Or you can avoid an early frost from March, April. So the Tempranillo became very popular. It's the second, while it's the fifth largest varietal plant in Argentina. Red varietal is the second most planted in La Consulta. It's part of our identity. It's a beautiful. I think the original rootstocks that the immigrant brought express completely different from the Spanish Tempranillos. Are lighter, are more elegant, very fruit forward, a lot of red fruit on the nose, are very drinkable and very versatile in terms of food pairing. So we love to have Tempranillos as a B plan when we have to explain and prove why Argentina is such a diverse country. And this meeting it's a proof of the it's not a theory, why Argentina is so diverse. People love the Tempranillo. People love how approachable it is, how fruit forward it is, how drinkable it is. And at the very end, it's also a patrimony wine that tells everybody how this small corner of the Uco Valley tastes and how beautiful could be when you made it properly, when it's oriented to be a pure fruit expression of the Tempranillo varietal.
Excellent. We have two questions here. So first of all, how do you manage ripeness or alcohol in the vineyard? And the second question is about your oak regime for this wine.
Well, ripeness is Tempranillo is very sensitive. You cannot wait more than 1 day. It is today or nothing, because tomorrow sometimes it's too late, or an early decision, an early picking can also affect the balance of between the total acidity, the phenols, the pH, and the potential alcohol. So you have to be very accurate to decide when to pick the Tempranillos. It's normally on early March. When my firstborn daughter came on March 22nd, I was complaining about her because she came during the Tempranillo harvest. So it was very stressful to decide when to pick the Tempranillos in 2012 when my daughter that is here was born. So the thing is, you should be very careful, because the most lovely thing from Tempranillos are the red fruit expression. So if you wait too much, if you want to ripe the phenols more, you are risking the fruit nose that it's always beautiful. So we manage that in a very accurate way. We measure always phenols, and normally the picking decision is based on the aromas ripeness, not in the phenol ripeness. So that's the way that we avoid or reduce any risk to lose that beautiful fruit. And the oak regime, it's also adapted for all the Año Cero concept, that it's all our own New World interpretation, the New World that we like here in Argentina. So it has a partial aging, about 1/3 of the total volume. It's aged in barrels, 100% French oak. We also tried with American in the past, but for this kind of elegant Tempranillos, the French oak, it fit very well. So normally we age 1/3, and the other 2/3 age remain in concrete tanks until the bottling moment in March.
Excellent. And we have one more question, Karim, about, Ed says that it's got a lovely, pure, soft texture. So how is it that you achieve this, this softness to the texture without the harshness that you can sometimes get from Tempranillo tannins?
Well, that's what our Spanish colleagues envy from us from Argentina. I mean, because they cannot believe how our Tempranillos are such drinkable on a very early stage. I think it's part of the growing conditions, the beauty of working in a blessed area like La Consulta or El Cepillo, and also the way that we harvest, we ferment. Our winery is 100% gravity fed, so it's 100% whole berry fermentation. The whole berry fermentation in a varietal like Tempranillo, that it doesn't squeeze so easy like the Malbec. The Tempranillo has a very firm pulp and a very thick skin. We have a very high percentage of juice fermenting inside the berry. So that softness and gentleness that create this almost carbonic maceration and carbonic fermentation inside the berry, it delivers a very beautiful, soft and round tannins that are perceived like sweetness. It's not sweetness coming from the sugar, it's sweetness coming from the very long phenols or polyphenols that we get on a very early stage.
Excellent, fantastic. Super. And now we're going to move on to a different variety, and another one which has been interesting to see the evolution in winemaking. So Pablo, we're going to taste your Pinot Noir, and this obviously is one of your very top lines. So a nice kind of treat to try this. Thank you very much. And tell us a bit about your own kind of journey with Pinot Noir, because we've got about 2,000 hectares of Pinot Noir in Argentina. And again, I think it's one of those varieties, a bit like Chardonnay, where we've seen this leap in quality in recent years. A lot of work, I know, with clones in the vineyards and selecting, the right clone for the right place. Can you tell us, Pablo, about your own personal Pinot journey?
Okay, very well. Well, I met the Pinot Noir when I used to work for Chandon Winery, something like 25 years ago or something like that. But mostly, the plantation of Pinot Noir in Argentina was promoted by that winery in order to produce basic wine for sparklings. And there is something interesting. Most of the clones that the vintners brought from France, they were champagne clones. But because we have another weather, another conditions, soils, sunlight intensity, with the years, they discovered with the clones that we can produce champagne or sparkling wines. We can produce also red wines. 2,000 hectares, it seems a small quantity, but the Pinot Noir is very well extended in all of Argentina. We have plantations in Uco Valley, vineyards in Uco Valley. We have also in the north of Argentina, in Salta, in Jujuy. We have also in Buenos Aires province, pretty close to the Atlantic Ocean. And we have also Pinot Noir planted in Patagonia, amazing Pinot Noir from Neuquén, from Rio Negro, even from Chubut. And again, here we have the same situation because the weather change, the soil composition change, sunlight intensity change, the Pinot Noir has different expressions. This is a fantastic variety. For me, I always say, for Argentina, we have two challenging varieties. One of them is the Sauvignon Blanc in whites, and the other one in reds is the Pinot Noir. It's really, really very complicated situation to get a very nice Pinot Noir in Argentina. If you think most of the mainly regions producing Pinot Noir in the world, they are pretty close to the ocean, and they have a cooler climate conditions than Mendoza. We live in a high altitude continental desert with only 250 millimeters of rainfalls a year in average, and we have to protect a lot the Pinot Noir from the sunlight intensity, because if not, we will get a marmalade, not grapes. This Pinot Noir is fantastic. It's a creation of one of my colleagues, Alejandro Cánovas, a great winemaker who worked with me here in Falasco Wines. And this wine is made it also in a very artisanal way. The Pinot Noir we pick up the grapes from a vineyard located in Los Chacalles. Karim mentioned before some things about Los Chacalles. Los Chacalles is a small sub-region of Tunuyán County, located also in Uco Valley. The elevation of this vineyard is about 1,100 meters, with a very poor soil, with a lot of stones and pebbles in surface, some sandy composition in the soil, and a very low yield per hectare. And he picked up the grapes in 2 times to create these wines: an early picking in order to get the freshness, the acidity, and later picking in order to get more richness, more alcohol level in the wine. And after that, the wine is aged 9 months in French oak only, but used barrels. And the interesting thing is we put the wine to age in barrels that are used before to age the Chardonnay, the Hermandad Chardonnay. Exactly.
And what does that impart any different character on the wine?
Yeah, come here. Say hello. We have a shy people here.
Hi, how are you? I'm Franco Falasco. Hi, Karim.
Hola, Franco, ¿cómo estás?
Hi, Amanda.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We're enjoying your Pinot Noir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, the idea in the Pinot Noir is not to get too much oak in the flavors. Again, we want to get the freshness, the expression of the fruits in the wine. And that is the idea, to age the wine in used barrels that we used before in Chardonnay. And it's a very nice creation of Alejandro Cánovas. This is an amazing Pinot. I like a lot. But the interesting thing is, again, you can taste great Pinots from different places in Argentina, from Patagonia, from the north, or even from Buenos Aires, pretty close to the ocean. And it's interesting because we have a lot of wineries producing small quantities of Pinot, and each Pinot with a different style. We cannot compare with the French style or with the American style, but it's interesting to see how the expression of the Pinot Noir works here in Argentina or developed.
Excellent. Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you. Well, if anyone has any more questions, I think you managed to answer the questions while we were discussing, but if there are any additional questions, then please
They will be asking who was the guy that showed up there. It's Franco Falasco. It's the owner of Falasco Winery.
He's my boss, technically.
Excellent.
Most probably was bothering Pablo, not leaving her alone.
checking that you were working, that it was a legitimate work call. And Karim's also been joined by his boss, his daughter. So she will be helping us with the last tasting. And we're moving on to Cabernet Franc, which is another kind of rising star of Argentina. So I think we've seen this great boom in quality of Cabernet Franc here in Mendoza, particularly, that similar to kind of the Pinot Noir story, we're starting to see Cabernet Franc plantings all over the diverse terroirs of Argentina. But Karim, can you talk to us a bit about Cabernet Franc, why you're so interested in working with this variety, and introduce your Alandes to us?
Well, I think we have to explain people that here in Southern Hemisphere we're on winter, and this is winter vacation. That's why my daughters are at the winery today and not at school. And we have to manage this situation on this part of the year. But it's a good opportunity to show them what we do at the winery and how we look here in Argentina, especially the youngest one, that's the one that thinks that we are playing here and not working. I think that the selection that you did for these presentations, it really proved la diferencia, the main difference or the differences between all these beautiful availability of things that we're already here in Argentina. Everything that we talk about, Pablo's Chardonnay, Bonarda, all the other white varietals, the Pinot Noir that is widely planted by Condor, but also promoted as a very high quality wine from Argentina. It proves that we are a diverse country. That Malbec was just a great help on a very early stage that to put Argentina on the map. But right now we're proving, and we must prove, that we are more than Malbec, and this diversity is not unusual for us. We are not surprised about having Cabernet Franc in Argentina. We had that Cabernet from many years ago, or from more than a century, when Aimé Pouget brought those French or Bordeaux varietals to Mendoza to improve the quality of our wines. So Malbec came among other varietals, including Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, Merlot, and they were available here from before, and that's what really promote that diversity that it's so attached to the profile of the wines that we made in the past, and also the profile of the wines that we like or are very familiar for us when we taste them at home. So the Cabernet Franc, it's also a very, how can I say, it's not widely planted like Malbec or Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's there, it's available, and in Uco Valley, it's showing beautifully, because the one of the things that it's new for us, it was, the varietal is not new, but having Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc in Uco Valley, it's a new situation, because thanks to the global warming, we start enjoying more long ripeness period varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot in an area where it was not possible before because the risk of frost. That high mountain continental weather that Pablo explained, it's very risky, not only for the frost, but also for the not ripening well or enough to harvest on time. So the Cabernet Franc is an example of that uniqueness of varietal that we had before, how it's showing in Uco Valley, how the typicity of the Cab Franc remains, plus the benefit of a unique freshness that any Cab Franc from Argentina had before. So when people taste our Argentine Cab Franc, you have two styles: the style, the massive or more commercial style, that it's very concentrated, very complex, sometimes overripe. It's coming from certain areas, but I love the more thin, elegant, feminine style from the Cab Franc, that it's more like Loire Valley style. It's not overwhelming, it's not overshowing anything. It's much more delicate and very nice. So I think the Loire Valley expression from this cool climate Cab Franc, it's also a new thing that we are able to share, that it also proves the Argentine diversity.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. I think we do see a nice diversity of Cabernet Franc, but what I like about Argentine Cabernet Franc is that it more embraces that slightly herbaceous kind of floral character and peppery character that Cabernet Franc does so well. We have a question here from Ed of how do you make your Cabernet Franc so silky smooth?
Adding water. No, it's a local joke between winemakers. No, I think, well, right now
they don't add water.
No, picking moment. It's a key factor, but also the way that we ferment in small beans or small batches, where we have a very gentle treatment for the skins, also whole berry fermentation. And the temperatures, the fermentation temperatures are also a key factor. And then when we rack out the wine down to the barrels, it aged for 18 months. So the French oak or the Cooper that we found for this specific Cab Franc, it provided a very soft, elegant tannins that combine very well with the Cab Franc tannin. So I think part of the reason it's all this winemaking process, but also what I said about the cool climate effect over Cabernet Franc.
Excellent. And what do you ferment in? Karim, what do you ferment? What do you ferment your Cabernet Franc in? Is it concrete and do you have any post-ferment maceration?
No, we do both. We do concrete and we do small plastic beans. But in both cases, we ferment just above 20 Celsius. So it's a very low temperature fermentation that extract very gently and very soft tannins. So the temperature fermentation helps to reach this profile.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, we are coming to the end of our tasting, but there was one question which was actually for Pablo, and I know he answered it privately, but I think it's an interesting question actually to finish on. The question was about the ideal drinking time for the Pinot Noir. But I want to open the question further and ask you about the ageability of some of these wines. So Pablo, what do you think is the kind of age worthiness of the Chardonnay, the Bonarda, and also the Pinot Noir that we've tasted today? Oh, you're on mute, Pablo.
Here we
There
are.
we go.
In the case of the Chardonnay, I have the opportunity to taste Hermandad Chardonnay 2016, the first vintage, and it is going very well. It's a wine which is designed to age, and that is something complicated to explain to our customers. They imagine the white wines must to be drinking immediately, and no, that is not true. You can age it for a few years, and it will be better. I always say the Chard is the best the second year after the vintage. And in the case of Bonarda, the evolution of the Bonarda is very good too. In the case of Los Haroldos estate, we recommend to drink fresh normally, but you can age a few years also. And in the case of the Pinot Noir is complicated because the Pinot Noir produce very sophisticated wines. And if you like the freshness expression of the Pinot Noir, you have to drink in 1 or 2 years. After the first years of the bottling is always perfect, but you can wait 4 or 5 years or 6 years to drink it with the different flavors profiles. It's always exquisite, the profiles of the Pinot Noir. Remember, it's the emperor variety. The emperors used to drink in Europe Pinot Noir, and it is a wonderful wine to taste with the evolution of the Pinot Noir with the time.
I actually last week had the opportunity to taste a 1999 Pinot Noir here from Mendoza. And it was a Rutini, which was, quite an important winery in that period and still is today. But it was just wonderful to see the evolution of Argentine Pinot Noir really holding up, still very fresh and great drinkability. So I have no doubt that yours can hold longer as well. And the same question for you, Karim. So what do you think is the age worthiness of the 3 wines that we've tried today? The blend, the Cabernet Franc, and the Tempranillo?
Well, the number one and number three were designed to age longer, but even the Año Cero collection aged very well because the quality of the fruit and the amount of phenols that these wines are so rich that they really age very well. And I think it's a key factor about Argentina because everybody here, Condor, you as a journalist, and Pablo and all our colleagues in Argentina are trying to prove something that we already know that it's true, that our wines are going to age well in the future, and we are just making the wines that we are going to enjoy in the next 20 or 30 years now. So this is a key factor because Argentina has to prove that we can really be a world-class a producer of world-class wines, and the capacity to age our wines will prove it in the upcoming years. So all the things that we are doing, including your beautiful guide that I don't know if everybody know it, but we have it here as a Bible because the size and the amount of information that you research and you got traveling around the country, it is amazing. It's just the very first chapter, like these wines, about the things that we are going to prove in the next years. The diapers of my daughters right now, I'm sure that the wines that are coming are going to pay the college of my daughters in the next 20 years.
Excellent, fantastic. I think that's a really nice point to finish on, and I hope that everyone's enjoyed tasting these wines, and I'm sure that everyone will be finishing their tasting packs today, but certainly worth holding on to some of these beautiful bottles for your own stash. That's what I do. I like to stash these up and try them several years down the line because I think they've got some great staying power. So thank you very much, Pablo, Karim, Aaron. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Amanda, and thank you, Karim and Pablo. Fascinating as always to listen to you talk. I think the problem for me with keeping these wines and seeing how they age is I always think it's a great idea, and then the next minute I turn around and we've sold out, so I've got to wait for the next vintage to come in. But I do have the odd thing I've managed to tuck away. In fact, I've got a 2015 of that Cabernet Franc, Karim, so it'll be interesting to see how that is. It's just how long do I keep it for? That's the question. Yeah, certainly. No, thanks again, everyone. Absolutely fantastic tasting. Really enjoyed the wine, showing really nicely. And again, we've managed to do a whole tasting about Argentina without any Malbec, which is just brilliant, isn't it? And the quality is so good running through those wines, and it just shows that yeah, Malbec's important. Malbec's a great grape. There are lovely examples from all over Argentina, but so much potential for so many other different grapes as well. And you're certainly you're not hard up for choice in Argentina if you want to drink quality wine. I just got a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'll let everybody go because I know that we were a little late starting, but just a few things to remind everyone about. Firstly, if you enjoyed listening to Karim and Pablo speak today, well, you might get a chance to meet them in person because both gentlemen will be visiting the UK later this year, October and November. TBC what we're going to be doing at this point, but keep your ears and your eyes open, and you'll see what's coming in due course. Second thing, just quickly to say, we did send out a customer survey email, and you can win a case of wine. If you complete that for us, please do. We'd love to hear your feedback, what we're doing really well, what you'd like to see improving. And just don't say too much about changing duty rates. We don't have much influence on that, I'm afraid. And then finally, later this year in September, we actually have a physical tasting, Grapey's Tits. We're going to do this with 3 other importers, a joint tasting, 2 dates in September. The 25th of September, Monday, is in London, and then Wednesday, 27th, is in Leeds. It'd be great if you could join us. Click on the link on the email signature that was sent out, and there'll be some reminder emails as well. So there we go. I think I got through all those little reminders there. But I'll let these good gentlemen go now. They're very busy men, and as you are, of course, as well, Amanda. But thanks, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
All right. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Salud.
Salud.